there, welcome to the garden. So I am out here today to water for a second time. I watered this morning and I usually water every morning. That's kind of a try to just make sure I get some water on the garden first thing, just in case. But then I just noticed everything was looking a little bit dry out here too, so I figured I would come out, water again, go ahead and fertilize everything and just take care of all that while I was out here. I also need to deadhead the petunias. That's kind of a regular everyday project for me because I got a bunch of the classic old school like headliner petunias, so I've been deadheading those. But boy, are we starting to miss the rain. So I'll share with you my fertilizing routine, what I do as far as watering. It's pretty simple, but I do get some questions about what fertilizer I use and how I do that. So I will go ahead and walk you through all of that. Now, usually we get quite a good amount of rain, especially this time of year. So we haven't had rain. It's been at least 2 weeks now, which for us is really a long time without rain. Typically, we get rain at least once a week, if not multiple times a week. We get big thunderstorms. Now there's a chance we're gonna get thunderstorms tomorrow, so I'm really kind of hoping and crossing my fingers for that one. There's something about, even though I water once a day, twice a day, there's something about rain and just, I think maybe even the humidity in the air that really helps. It is starting to get really dry here, and even though I'm watering the containers, I just feel like I can't quite keep up on them the way that I normally do. When we are getting tons and tons of rain, the containers don't get quite as bone dry. Obviously, you know, there's just, when we're getting even more regular rain, they don't get like bone dry in between waterings the way that they do when we're in a drier period right now. I mean, these containers out here are dry, really, really dry. So I'm gonna go out and just deadhead everything before I water. It's just easier to do the deadheading before I water. I try to do that every day or so, get the deadheading all done, and then I will water. So my fertilizing schedule, typically when it's raining a lot, I just fertilize every time I am watering by hand, because usually if it's raining enough, then I'm not watering every day. When it's not raining, then I go more to once a week, kind of just following the directions on the package. And what I have been watering my garden with is this fish fertilizer. It smells really bad, but it's just a classic basic fish fertilizer, and that works well. They have a bloom boosting version, which I have used on the flowers at times, but because I have so many edibles mixed in the containers of the flowers, it's easier for me just to use a general fertilizer like that, and so far it's worked pretty well for the flowers. They all seem pretty happy. So I just follow the directions on that, and I do that once a week. On some of my hanging baskets or the really full containers, sometimes I will do twice a week, but mostly just follow the directions is perfect. And then it's just getting the pots wet enough that they don't dry out. That's why I'm watering twice a day now, because I don't want the plants to start getting stressed. The biggest difference that I notice, because I always keep my plants on a pretty decent fertilizing routine, so the biggest difference where I start to see the biggest amount of stress on the plants is when I let them dry out. That is where you really start to see problems. So if it takes watering twice a day, that's what I'm gonna do. Now, I do also have some perennials, like these gorgeous Heliopsis that are in containers. I typically don't fertilize them once a week. I try to fertilize them like maybe once or twice a month, just with the general fish fertilizer. They're not obviously growing in ground, so they aren't getting all the nutrients that they would find in ground, but they are still, they still have a slow release fertilizer that I usually put in the container. So I find that if I give them a little bit of fish fertilizer once or twice a month, then my perennials do great. Unless it's something like the Russian sage or the butterfly bush, I just never, maybe like once a season, throw a little fertilizer on them because they don't like the food that makes them, unhappy. So the first thing I'm going to do before I fertilize my containers and water everything is turn on my sprinkler system and turn on the hose and just give everything a big dose of water. So I'll go in, deadhead everything, get all the plants cleaned up where I need to, and then turn on the sprinklers and the hoses and just get everything super wet before I fertilize. Because not only do I need to put the fertilizer in the containers, but since we haven't gotten any rain, I also just need to make sure everything gets enough water. So we're gonna do that first. Now I am watering even though we're supposed to get a thunderstorm either tonight or tomorrow, because I honestly don't trust the weather reports lately. We have not, it keeps saying it's gonna rain and then it doesn't. I especially wanna make sure I get a lot of water on the grow bags because they tend to dry out really quickly. And so do any of the cocoa fiber lined containers. So they all need lots of water. And I'll go over for a little bit and then come back. Sometimes the first pass of water isn't enough to really saturate, so I like to water and then go water other containers. And then I'll come back and hit the same spot a couple times just to really make sure these containers are getting enough water and the plants really have time to soak through, because also when things start getting really dry, I find that sometimes the water just runs through the container and the plants don't even get enough water. It takes a little bit of it's a process. It takes a little while, and you have to be kind of careful to make sure every individual little container is getting water, because we've got these perennials back in here that sometimes it's easy to miss them. Watering is totally a patience activity. Rushing it does not help. You need to have time to really let the water soak in. So once I get to fertilizing, I'm just gonna put a little bit of fertilizer in each container and make sure there's enough that the water's running through, but I'm not worried about that actually hydrating the plant. It's this time while I'm out here watering before I fertilize that I'm actually trying to really hydrate all these containers and make sure that they're really getting all the water that they need. So that's why I keep going back over them, and I got the sprinklers on in the raised bed, so at least I don't have to worry about getting water in the raised beds. But we just need to make sure all the containers get all the water they need. If we had been having more consistent rainfall and I felt like these thunderstorms we're supposed to get are actually going to come, then I might water a little bit, just hit the pots that need it right now for the second watering of the day. Or if the garden wasn't looking so dry, then I might just wait and say, all right, well, we'll see if it rains overnight, and if not, I'll just water in the morning. But yeah, as I said, because it's been so dry for so long now, the pots are just at a different level and they're just getting dry so quickly, so I don't even want to risk it. I'd rather they have a little extra water, because at this point that's not going to be a problem. Sometimes we have enough rain in a season that the plants start getting waterlogged and it's too much water, but I wouldn't want to water on top of the rainstorm. Maybe I would just fertilize. But it's so dry right now that I'm not worried at all about these plants getting waterlogged. In fact, actually having the wet soil before the rain might actually help them to be able to absorb some of the rainfall that comes down and not have it all just run off. So just not worried about it all. This is just dry spell care, of the garden. Container gardens take a lot of time when you have a dry season like this. All right, I'm gonna do a little bit more of this and then we'll go in and fertilize it. All right, we got that done. It took a little while. It's definitely a lot more time consuming when you have to use the watering can than using a hose, but this is good. Got the whole thing fertilized. As I said, I only have to do it about once a week, and it feels like maybe it's gonna rain. I just really hope. I really hope. As I'm watering, which is one of the great things about watering, is that you do get a chance to kind of like really look at your garden. I noticed a new cosmos blooming, so I thought we would go take a quick peek at that before I head back inside. So let me show you the newest cosmo bloom. Also, I'm obsessed with the apple blossom snapdragon. It's looking so good. More and more flowers are opening. How pretty is that? It's kind of more pinky than it looks on camera, but it's so pretty. I think it looks really cute with the Gomphrena and then the Suncredible sunflower. So okay, let's go over, see if we can get the cosmos is back there in this corner. There's not a lot of space to walk because the squash is really taking over my pathway, as is the cucumber. Let's see if I've got any cucumbers on here to harvest. But back here, you can see this is one of the pink lemonade cosmos. A little small because it's back in the corner here and didn't get quite as much sun as maybe it wants. But that is a pink lemonade cosmos, and oh, it's so pretty. I looked at pink lemonade cosmos for years. I've always liked that flower. I think they're such pretty cosmos, and I just never quite, usually I do a lot of tropical colors, so I'm just noticing my coleus is starting to bloom here, so I better pop off that. Usually I get to do a lot of kind of tropical colors, so the pink lemonade cosmos was never quite the fit, but this year I did a lot more of the kind of apricot tones, so the pink lemonade cosmos is a perfect fit. Now I'm just pruning off a couple tomato leaves because they get in the way of my sunflowers. Can't have that. That won't bother the tomatoes one bit. But so I'm just so happy that cosmos is blooming. That was really fun to see. It's super pretty. I also, my anise hyssop is starting to bloom as well. It seems like every time I come out in the garden, there's something new blooming. This is the Mango Tango anise hyssop. Isn't that pretty? Really pretty orange. And this one will bloom until frost. I love anise hyssop. I got some of these mid-season last year. This is a perennial that I've got in containers. I've got on that same fertilizing schedule, but yeah, oh my goodness. So I got these mid-season and they just bloomed and bloomed and bloomed all the way until frost. They were so beautiful. And then the dahlia has really started to take off blooming. Isn't that so pretty? Pink and lemons. Gorgeous. Gotta love a dahlia. So much fun. Well, anyways, that is the garden all watered and fertilized and hopefully ready for a nice big rainstorm. We'll see if we actually get one. But hey there, so it's just a day later and I had to pop back out here because yesterday we got rain. It was so nice. I didn't have to water the garden yesterday. We got lots and lots of beautiful rain out here. The garden is looking so happy, and because if I fertilized it, I feel like it's just looking even more refreshed. So I wanted to give you a quick little look at the garden after the rain. It doesn't look that much different except for everything's just much happier. And even though it rained, so I guess it's 2 days later, so it rained all day yesterday, but today morning I am going to go ahead and water it. I'm not going to fertilize today. I'll probably fertilize in another 2 days, a day or two, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I'm not going to fertilize, but I am going to go ahead and water this morning because I pretty much water every day. And even though we got it was a nice steady rain all day, it still needs water again. But let me just show you a little look at the garden. It's looking nice and fresh. Something about rain just picks up the whole garden. I feel like everything is just looking really happy. Look at the nasturtiums. They are just going crazy. yeah, so everything's looking beautiful, growing, but I am gonna go ahead and just, yeah, water again this morning. Probably not super heavily because everything does still look like there is, you know, moisture in it, but I don't want it to dry out. So I have found that with a patio container garden like this, we've got a lot of stones out here on the patio. It's full sun. It gets really hot during the afternoons. So even after a day of rain, I need to go ahead and water to make sure that these containers just stay cool enough and the plants are hydrated and we don't have any issues. So I'm going to do that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.